Hey, Samuel Leeds here. Welcome to Winners on a Wednesday. This week we have a guy who's been in the game a little while. Please welcome onto the show, Mr. Trevor Cooper.
Hi.
Good to have you on the show, man.
Good to meet you.
You've been in property a long time. Why don't you start by just giving us a little bit about your background
Sure.
and how long you've been in property and what you've done?
Yeah, okay. So I started in property about 20 years ago.
That was before I was in property.
Yeah.
That was before I'd left school.
Thanks for rubbing it in. I think you probably were about 6, I think.
Yeah, probably. Well, 7 or 8. Yeah. But that's a long time.
Yeah.
So talk us through what you've kind of done. I know you've recently. Well, you attended the crash course. What, like a year ago?
It was in June, actually.
In June.
Yeah.
And things have changed a little bit, and strategies have changed. You're now stepping out and doing things a little bit differently. But why don't you just talk to us a little bit about what you've done prior to the crash course?
Yeah.
And what your strategy has been.
Sure. So I mean, it all started. I'd had a career. I've had a career in sales all my life.
Yeah.
And at one point, there was a bit of a change in the industry I was working in, and I was made redundant several times in a row. And I suddenly thought, you know what? I've got to find some way of making sure that I'm secure financially, and it's not going to be from income coming from another company. And that was it. So we were up in Scotland on holiday, my wife and I, and we were thinking about doing a buy-to-let. And before we got home, we'd already booked all the viewings for when we got back, and we started getting really excited, and we went and bought a one-bed house, little tiny house, and we didn't know what we were doing, had no idea. We decorated it. I was out there at 3 a.m. in the morning, painting the windows, getting it all ready. It took us a week to turn it around, put it back on the market, and it let straight away. I thought, wow, fantastic. So that's kind of where it started, and then fast forward, to about 4 years ago, I left my day job. We'd just got to the point where we could cover all our costs with our buy-to-lets. So I thought, actually, you know what? I want to leave the day job and do some other stuff. So that's where we got.
Incredible. So you single-handedly sort of built this property. I mean, how many properties did it take in order for you to say, you know what, I can now leave work?
At that point, it was 8 properties.
8, and but these were all single lets?
All single lets.
Reasonably, in my world, very low yielding.
Yeah.
What kind of return on investment were you getting?
So they're probably about 7 or 8%.
About 7 or 8%, which is, hey, it's a lot better than the bank.
Yeah.
And you're also getting capital appreciation,
Exactly.
but it's very. I say this at the crash course. You see me say this. You could literally buy a property blindfolded, you know, in a random area and just be like, that one, and you're still probably going to make money over time. The dangerous ways to make money in property is like things like off plan, overseas, that can go wrong.
Yeah.
But if you just put your money into property, you're probably going to make money, which is what you did.
It is exactly what we did. We didn't
were you just putting in 25% deposits based on your income?
I think it was 20% in those days, but yeah, we were just putting a deposit down, which we'd saved up from the income, and letting it go.
So I guess for anyone watching this who is, presumably, what did you say your previous job was? I know you kept getting made redundant, but what was your background?
So sales. I've been in sales all my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of stuff have you been selling?
Everything from home pride foods through to children's books more recently.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So for anyone watching this who's making a decent living, and they're in a job, the key is you can get made redundant. It happened to you 3 times.
Yeah.
So a real smart thing is to do is to just save, invest, and wait.
Yeah.
So that was your strategy. Talk to me about what changed in June then when you came on the crash course.
So I think for me, I left my day job about 4 years ago, and then I bought a few more properties in the same or similar way with a bit more thought in terms of where I was buying it, why, and I'm looking at capital growth and trying to work out where I think I'm going to see that. But then more recently, after doing the crash course, it really made me think differently. I haven't bought any HMOs yet, but that was the key driver for me to go on the course, because it's something I'm starting to look at.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking now, you know what, I've got a really good asset base, I've got a reasonable amount of income coming off of it, but it'd be good to bring that up a bit more and get some high yielding properties.
And you've got one which is a higher return one, still a single let, but we're pushing the boat a little bit more, which is you're going to be getting the keys when?
We get the keys on Monday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Are you excited about that one?
Very much so, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a project with myself and my son. So it's going to be his first buy-to-let.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's the project for the next couple of weeks.
So talk to me a little bit about some of the, because I know, you've come on the show for 3 reasons. One, because I asked you to come on the show, because you've been successful in property, and because you're now pushing the boat out, you're getting more interesting deals. Secondly, because I know you want to inspire people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you've got one of the things that you do, which is great on our Facebook group, and if anyone's not on the Property Investors with Samuel Leeds Facebook group, I think they should be. You're very active on that, and you post your deals and you put spreadsheets and you say, look, these are the figures, and you say, this is what I'll put in and this is now what I'm getting out, and these are the return on investment, which is really, really good, and it just means that people can see the nitty gritty of the exact figures. So I really appreciate that. So you want to inspire people. And 3, I see you getting a lot of questions on the group about your properties, so we wanted to answer some of the common questions around property that I get, that you get, to really just help people and add value. So why don't we start? Why don't you just talk to me a little bit about what are the common questions that you've been asked, and what are the key lessons that you wish you knew now when you started 20 years ago?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the key one is around capital growth and where I see it, because everyone's got their own strategies. At the moment, my strategy has been about buying properties where I think there's going to be good capital growth. It's about how you identify those areas.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if I've got it right. We'll find out. I've done okay in the past. So yeah, I think that's a key one. And that's just about really doing your due diligence and analysing the figures. So for instance, where I'm buying at the moment, the prices haven't moved since about 2006.
Yes.
Now a lot of people go, well, why are you buying there then? That's a terrible place to buy. Well, actually, they're undervalued at the moment. There's loads of growth I'm expecting in that area. And when you drive to this area, you see all the builders. They're building properties everywhere because they know that that's going to happen. It's going to grow. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm constantly.
That's a really good point. Sometimes people like to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So properties are going up in an area and they're going crazy, and then everyone thinks, oh, I'll buy there then.
Exactly.
But actually, you're better off to find an area where prices have bottomed out, because after a big dip will always follow a big boom, and after a big boom will always follow a big dip.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So where are you buying at the moment then, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. I'm hoping it help the prices go up.
It could do.
So the one we're just doing is in Crewe.
Fantastic.
Most of the properties we're buying in that area are actually in Sandbach, which is sort of next to Crewe. It's a really nice little town. Looks like it's quite affluent. So I know it's a different strategy to the ones that some people follow.
Yes.
But I'm looking for those properties specifically for capital growth.
But you're now getting much better return than you were getting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 11% on a single let,
which is still we've got a long way to go yet.
Yeah.
But it's better than 7 or 8%.
It's a reasonable return on a single let. And so it's going to be my son's first property. So for a first one, a single let's probably not a bad idea. Certainly for him, I think it's the right move. It's a good. And
your figures as well. Your figures are very, very conservative, realistic. You factor into account. You factor into account everything and more. So which is a good way to do it, because you'd rather think 11% and then actually okay, it was full all the time, brilliant, it's now 12 or 13%, then think it's going to be 20% and then it's 15%, so that's great. Okay, what else, what common questions do you get then?
So, I mean, I think people talk about the area, they then ask about, because they do look at that spreadsheet that I put up there and my costs, and I get some really good comments about that spreadsheet, and some that I just think, really, you're asking that? Some people sort of say, you could get your oven for 50 quid less, and you're thinking, oh, okay, great, it's not going to change the deal much. But other people are sort of asking more important questions about, how it's being financed and how I'm getting to that overall number. So it is about, for me, it is about the numbers, making sure you've got those numbers just right for the deal. That spreadsheet, it's taken a while, but you sort of come up with a basic format and then you build on it over time, and now there's nothing that's not on there. So I know when I buy that property, everything I need will be included on that spreadsheet.
Fantastic, really good. And property's got to be about formulas.
Yes.
Too many people buy properties based on their feelings.
Yeah.
I like this property, this is in a nice area, but actually, even with yourself looking for capital appreciation, it's not your feelings, It's you calculating what do we think is going to go up.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because on the really good podcast that you do, I was listening to Russell.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the formulas and feelings things with Alistair. And I said, I wish I could actually be there and debate this with them at the time, because they were talking about the fact that a lot of people buy in nice areas. I'm thinking, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, I do. But it's not because I'm buying my feelings. It's just that my strategy and my formula is to make sure that my exit plan is that one day I might want to sell that property or reinvest or pull the money out, and I want the capital growth, and that's why I'm buying in those areas. So,
but buying nice houses can be about feelings. If it's about feelings, then that's the wrong motive. But if you're doing it and you've got a plan in mind that it fits with your plan, we were talking earlier, weren't we, off camera, about people say, what's the best property strategy? There is none. It just depends on what you're wanting to achieve, and everyone's got different goals and wants to achieve different things.
That's right.
So love that. What are your plans then now moving forward? Now I know you did the crash course in June. You've now started buying slightly different types of properties. How else did that change your mindset, strategies? How else has that helped?
I think the challenge for me is now whether I go into HMOs, because clearly, what you've shown on that course is the returns can be really good, and it's about, for me, it's almost a challenge to me to say, come on, Trevor, do something a bit different, and improve that cash flow, because we've got the assets. So I'm certainly talking to agents in a different way when I'm on the phone, which is something that you talked about on the course.
And did on the programme, probably. I usually speak to them live.
And the property we're buying in Crewe, that one was very much from a conversation. I knew before I viewed it that there was going to be movement in that price, and that was really important. So it's definitely it's made me think differently. It's also fired me up, and actually my family. And that's really good.
Because you're really your son is now getting into property a little bit, and you're really excited about seeing him pursue that journey. Tell me a little bit about that. Was he at the crash course?
He came to the first day. Unfortunately, not very well, and he had to go home. Okay. So we're going to do it again at some point. But for him, we don't quite know which route he wants to take yet. But I suspect he may well look at some of the other strategies that you talk about. And that's why I'm really keen that he gets involved now, because I think some of the strategies that you look at would be very interesting for him as he starts to build cash flow from a very low base. That's less important to me, but for him it's kind of what he needs, so that he can then use that cash flow to go and build his assets, which is something you talk about. So,
What have been the biggest challenges as a property investor over the 2 decades?
Lack of knowledge, and I say that because it's like you said earlier. What I know now, if I knew that even 10 years ago, in 2008, I was one of the people that was thinking, hold back, I'm not going to do anything. I wished I had. And what's really frustrating is I was in a position where I could have done actually, but I didn't know. I was still working in a corporate career. This was very much a sideline. I wasn't really deep diving into it and working out what the market's actually doing and where it was going to go to. It's probably 2013 that I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, things are moving here. And I one of the best houses I ever bought, I bought in 2013, and it's doubled its value in 5 years.
Where was that?
Funny enough, it was just around the corner from where I live in Letchworth.
Letchworth, which is
Hertfordshire.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I've been buying properties now for 11, 12 years, and one of the things that people don't really see, and I don't think they appreciate until you've been in the game for a very long time, is that when properties go up in value, that's when you hit the jackpot, really, isn't it? The returns are fantastic, and making 10%, 20%, whatever you're making is brilliant. But really, when you make the big bucks, it's when you suddenly go, oh my goodness, absolutely. I bought that property for 100 grand and now it's worth £200,000, and then you can then refinance and do all kinds of things with it. Or and I don't know, have you ever played the game Cash Flow 101?
I have, yeah.
We've got cash flow. How are you good at it? Do you win?
Sometimes.
Would you beat me, do you think?
I wouldn't like to say that. I'll tell you what, I'll challenge you to a game.
You challenge me to a game. I look forward to that. The way that I always win on Cash Flow 101, and I think the strategy, which is very true to real life, is buy properties, you get your bit of income coming in, and you're desperately trying to become financially free. You're buying properties and you're getting these little deals and you're scrapping around making a few £100 here, a few £100 there, but then suddenly the market changes.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, oh goodness, those little tiny properties that I bought that give me a little bit of income have now gone right up in value.
Yeah.
And then you sell one and then bang, you start doing some big deals.
Yeah.
And that's when you suddenly get very wealthy. And I think in real life, I think that's true to say as well, which is, I don't know if you'd agree, being in the game for 2 decades.
I would, and you're right. I mean, we started off with very small properties, and we've got a couple that are a little bit bigger now, and I think that's a very valid point as well, that at some point it's good to get one or two that are a little bit larger.
Yeah.
You know what? The kitchen and bathroom cost will be exactly the same on a £45,000 house to a £250,000 house. So although there is a thing about yield and return on the property, there is also a case that the value you can add to a larger house, it doesn't cost you much more.
Yeah.
And if it's an area where you're expecting good capital growth,
yeah,
then actually it's worth doing, because the longer term is going to look very good if you can double its value.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I started out buying, I was buying very, very cheap properties, very small properties, simply because, well, for a start, I wouldn't have been able to afford it to buy even a house that was £200,000.
Sure.
The returns are better, but there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
And you could really argue it both ways. What have been the biggest sort of successes then, and the real highlights of your property journey over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one big thing that's made the real difference to me is budgeting. And it sounds very boring. I mean, you mentioned earlier, my strategy could be seen from some.
It's very boring. I'm not going to lie.
It's very boring. Absolutely.
It's very boring.
But budgeting's so important. and you know what?
Yeah.
When I went on your crash course, one of the very first things you talked about was the 6 bank account model. And as soon as you mentioned that, you had my interest, because I'd never seen that before. But you know what? I was doing it. We've been doing it for years. We not quite the same, but I mean, we've got loads of different bank accounts, and every month all our money goes into one account, and then it pings out automatically to all these other little accounts.
Yeah.
And that's everything covered. We know where we are with everything.
Yeah.
And you know what? If people did that, I think they'd find they've got more money at the end of the month to save, to put into investments.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, because I know some people watching this might not have been to the crash course.
Sure.
Because you're talking about the simple version would be, rather than saying, here's my wage and I'm going to try and save what's left and invest, you need to pay yourself first. So we almost flip that on its head at the crash course and teach a money management system whereby magically you'll have more money, and you'll. Because I had a guy who was making £3,000 a month, and he wasn't saving any money. He said he couldn't afford to save money. He had kids, he had a wife, and then he got a pay rise.
Yeah.
And he said, Samuel, I'm now making £3,500, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that £500 a month. I'm going to save it. I'm going to put that in property. I said, good for you.
That's it.
6 months later, I said, how's your £3,000? He said, what? I said, how's your £3,000? He was like, I said, well, 6 months ago you said you'd save £500. You must have £3,000 now. How's it doing? And he was like, oh yeah. He said, it's interesting that, because when I got my pay rise, suddenly cost of living seemed to match it.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. But unless you budget properly, unless you pay yourself first, you're never going to have spare money. You're never going to have enough money to invest in property. So that's a really, really good point. What would you say moving forward, your focus is going to be on now then? Or are you still unsure?
Yeah, I think it's to be decided. There will be more properties.
Yeah.
I imagine I probably will do another single let. Do you know what? It partly depends on what comes along.
Yeah.
I've got all the right move alerts set up. I'm constantly looking. So I've got my patch. I know where I'm looking, and I've done that by researching, to make sure it fits my strategy.
Yeah.
So it's not too far away that I can't actually get to it, but it's in a growth area. And now it's about what comes along. So, I will look at all sorts of things. I looked at a 4-bed detached just before Christmas in that area, because it was actually on for a really good price.
Yeah.
So, I'd have to think of a different strategy for that. But equally, if there's a 2-bed single let that's going to make 12% and it's not a lot of money, I'll probably go for that.
Yeah. Interesting that you haven't, with you being quite a traditional investor, you haven't stuck solely to your area, have you? You do invest in different areas, like the one you're buying at the moment is nowhere near where you live.
Yeah.
What do you think of that from a management point of view? Talk to me about how do you buy properties that are really far away from where you live? How does that work?
Okay, so just going back a little bit from that. So the reason that occurred was I actually left my job just before George Osborne stood up and announced Clause 24. And we had all individually owned buy-to-lets at that point. I thought, oh, great, I've just left this really well-paid job, and now this is great big hammer that's going to come down on us. So I needed a new strategy. And that's what I thought, well, do we sell up? What do we do?
Yeah.
Well, there's no way all that hard work, I was going to sell it up. So we said, right, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to set up a limited company. So we're going to start buying through a limited company and just build a new portfolio, and that one will be a limited company, and that will offset any losses we've got through our individual owned buy-to-lets. So that's how it happened. And then it's, well, it don't work in Hertfordshire anymore. You can't buy a property in Hertfordshire as a single let, certainly, and let it out and make a decent return.
Yeah.
So that's how it occurred. So I started looking, and I started off looking at the whole of Manchester, and I had all these alerts set up, and I had all these emails coming in, and I was swamped. I didn't know where was I going to go. There was no focus. I thought, hang on a minute, what I need to do is actually find my area. So what kind of area am I looking for? And I wanted growth. I wanted somewhere that looked like it was quite a wealthy area, but there was still opportunity there, and somewhere where there's lots of development going on. So yeah. HS2 is going into Crewe. Crewe is right next to Sandbach, so it's a really good spot, longer term. If you look online at the stuff they're going to do with Crewe Station, it's looking like Reading. I mean, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a really, really modern retail, cafe, bars, all that kind of stuff. So it looked like a really good area for the future. So I thought, right, that's my area sorted out. And that's how it occurred. Now, obviously, being 3 hours away, I can't manage those properties.
I just stop you there, by the way. I just want to say, love what you just said. You should definitely, if you're watching this, rewind and listen to that again, because that was absolutely brilliant about how you found the area, in Crewe, what you look for. Real golden nugget there, so respect for that. Talk to me about management.
Yeah, so the ones down south, we use an agent to find tenants, but then I manage it after that. Yeah. And you know what? I don't spend much time on it. I've got a good team around me. So
how did you put that team together?
I mean, the gas engineer, the electrician, they've been with me for years. They actually did work on an extension at our house about 20 years ago.
But do they do the same? Do you use the same people that work for you in Hertfordshire and Crewe?
No, except for the painter is going to paint the house in Crewe for us.
Okay, but how did you put together your new team in Crewe?
Yeah, so the first thing was, when I was going out there looking at properties, I picked up the local newspapers, and there's a couple of things, local magazines and things around there. So you're looking at that, looking at people's names, and trying to get to see who's doing what. And I found that, and I thought, okay, that looks interesting. Rang the guy up. It's actually his wife. She manages his diary. He's a kitchen fitter. Sounded okay, but just you want to do a bit of research, find out what he's doing. I've got an account with Howdens for kitchens. I do all my kitchens through Howdens at the moment, and in down south. I rang Howdens in Crewe, and they knew this guy, and he had a good reputation. So it's like, great. Yeah. So got a really good kitchen fitter. And I did the same thing with the other guys. So I built this team just by pulling together people from local ads and stuff, but making sure they've got a good reputation in the area. And then on the very first project, I was up there for the duration, so I was keeping an eye on it. I was doing other work outside of that, so it wasn't costing me too much time. But I was in there every day, just keeping an eye and making sure it's coming together. And then after that, it's fine. I just give them the keys. They know the brief. Yeah. On the one we're doing next week, I arrived there with my son on day one. All the deliveries come in, so the kitchen arrived, the bathroom arrived, everything else arrives. The carpets get measured, the carpet arrives, everything happens. And then I hand the keys over to the tradespeople, and they deal with it. So it's kind of not entirely hands off, because
you manage it yourself, but you do it from a distance.
Yeah.
And you've got good people in the area that can, so you don't have to drive to the property.
No.
But you do it from a distance. I think that's really good. I think that makes a lot of sense. And these things that we're talking about now are just so vitally important, especially if you are going to be managing it yourself. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that buying in your area just because it's your area is actually that smart, personally, because if it's not a good investment area, it's great if it happens to be, but trying to fit a square peg in a round hole and make it fit just because you live there, you can end up building a whole portfolio just because you live there, and then wanting to move.
Yeah. I think this is, the market's changed. You know, when we first started, where I lived just happened to be a good area.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. You know, it got the ripple effect from London. It was brilliant. But it's not now, and I think a lot of people find the same thing, which is why people are looking further up north. And you know, if you want to make some money, you've got to do that. Really,
So, I mean, and I think the things we're talking about are really important. You've said a few times, if I knew then what I know now.
Yeah.
Talk to me about training, because you're someone that's been in the game a long time. It's really, you know, it's quite humbling for me that you've been in the game a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
But then you come on to be trained by me and come to my programs. Why do you feel it's important to do that, even as someone who's got experience?
Well, you know, it's not just important, but actually, I never want to stop learning. You know, and I think I mentioned to you before that, you know, when I was in the day job, there's always the learning going on, there's training courses, you're sent on, all this kind of stuff. And then you come out and suddenly you're on your own and you think, well, where am I going to get that input from? And I mean, that's how I came across you. I just, you know, found you online. I thought, this guy clearly knows what he's doing and he's relevant and current, and that's the point. You know, and yeah, I mean, that's it really for me. So it's about enjoying that learning journey, but also getting something out of it and hopefully implementing it and improving my business at the same time.
Yeah, fantastic. And what would you say to somebody that was considering registering for the crash course? What was it like? What would you say to them?
Stop considering and do it would be the message. I mean, yeah, I'll tell you, when I went on it, I brought my wife along. Well, that's not entirely fair. She actually said she wanted to come along, but she was doing it for me. She was so fired up after that course. I couldn't believe it. I mean, you know, Sally, I love her dearly, and she's not a business person. It's not what she wants. It's not what she does. But for her to come back with so much enthusiasm after that course is amazing. Really.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to get, you know, inspired, and if you want to, you know, start your journey, or even if like me you're already on your journey, you just got to go to the course. There's so much value there that, you know, it's a no-brainer, quite frankly.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
I'm looking forward to seeing how you get on with your crew properties, and hopefully HMOs very soon too. God bless. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for watching the video. That is the reason why I'm doing this. Your success is my oxygen. Every single week we've got people becoming financially free. If you'd like to see more success students, you can do that right here. But what I'd really suggest is, why don't you come and join us at the Property Investors Crash Course? Come along, my guest, completely free, and I'll personally be there for 2 days to help you get started. You can see what happens right here. What you'll notice is all of these stories, they all start at the Crash Course. So come along, my guest, can't wait to see you there. Peace out.